ladies and gentlemen, we have a Q&A coming up right now with the professor of stand-up comedy and the professor of stand-up comedy technique.
Hey,
You've got questions. I've got questions. Greg's got answers. So if you have a question about stand-up comedy, put it up there. I'm going to introduce Greg Dean. He's going to come on right now. So I got a question for you. There's someone that wrote in a little earlier about your classes in terms of what is it that you teach that's like different from what people learn just going out and doing open mics and writing on their own. What is it specifically that you're about?
well, it's all about technique. First of all, I have a joke theory. I have a joke diagram. I coined the term joke structure to describe the 5 mechanisms between setup and punch. For me, joke structure is not setup and punch. That's just the format at which we deal with one-liner humor. And we express humor in a lot of different ways. We do cartoons, we do sitcoms, we do sketches, we do setup and punch is just for one-liners. So that there are 5 mechanisms between the setup and the punch, and that's joke structure. So it's first understanding what a joke is and how it works. That's part of what we teach in the beginner class. We spend a lot of time, the level 1 class, going over it and over it to understand. And that does 3 things. First of all, 1, it helps you recognize where the joke is. 2, then you can fix the joke. And 3, you can write jokes at will. A lot of people who have a hard time writing jokes think, oh, that can't be, but it is. It's very easy. We also teach people 5 different ways of generating material. I say generating material because it's not always writing. Getting up and ranting about an idea, getting up and changing points of view, etc. Observation jokes. There's so many things and different ways to opinion pieces, etc. are different ways of developing material. So if you're developing material a particular way, you don't listen to any teachers. Keep doing it your way. Now, also learn though, because I have another thing where I have like joke grammar, setups and punches. Yes, we do use setup and punches. Need to be short. That's a big part of what I do, is keeping people to understand. Once you understand joke structure and the mechanisms, you start to understand the reason the setups have to be short and the reasons that the punches have to be short. So that's always where I start with the classes.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. I love this, that the questions are coming in. So here's Gayla Citizen Young. Greg, you just saw her show, Death Doula. Oh my God.
I did.
Her question is, at what time should I get a manager?
It's a very odd thing. Really, you're going to get an agent, a manager, and all those people when you don't need one. Now, that sounds odd, but it's really, at first, you're really self-employed for quite a long time. You're booking your own gigs, you're finding your own, stage time for years. The point at which you'll get an agent and a manager is when you're making so much money doing comedy that somebody else can make a living off of you and take some of the burden off of you for either getting the jobs, managers help you manage your career, etc. But it's got to have a career that allows people to make a lot of money off you, because they're going to have an office, they're going to have other employees that are doing all these things. So the point at which you're on television or you're making a lot of money from clubs and stuff, then you can get a manager and or an agent to help you with those things. If you get it too early, you're really just giving your money to somebody to do something you will probably have to do on your own anyway.
Yeah, good stuff. And I got evidence of that in my own career. David J, he's got a great question. He says, should I write one joke and build a routine around that, or should I have an overall premise?
The answer is yes.
Okay, all right. That was easy.
So what it comes down to, you can bring me back. I'm just messing with you. It's up to you. This whole thing is yours. you've got to be comfortable with what you're taking on stage. I mean, I teach a lot of techniques. I get people to get their jokes shorter with a lot of tags, a lot of act outs. If you want to work at 5+ laughs per minute, I always tell people you got to work with good, solid, short jokes, then follow it with tags and also do act outs because that helps, shifting back and forth and doing a scene helps with a lot more laughs per minute. So you can start. I mean, Gayla did a whole routine that she does about some guy coming up and talking. She tells us she got a good rack, and she gives him her falsie. I don't know if you've seen the piece or not, but that started as a real event where some guy come up, said something to her at a club before she was going on. She was like, "Here." Now it's a 3-4 minute bit. Because once we did that, well, who is that guy? Let's find the jokes that he would say about himself, what Gayla would say back to him, what's their dialogue back and forth, how does he handle, getting the falsie, and should he take it home and introduce it to his parents, and on and on and on. We ask all these questions, and we built a 4.5 minute routine around one little idea.
Okay.
So that can be it. But at the same time, sometimes you just come up with jokes that are just great single jokes. So don't keep those because here's one thing. But a lot of beginners have a kind of an issue with this. Just because you're a comedian on stage, for no reason, you can start talking about anything. You don't need what I call rationalizations. You don't need segues. You don't need to tell me the reason you're doing it or where it came from and all those other things. That's just debris that slows down a show.
Yeah.
So one of my students over this last week had one joke. It was really, really good. He said, "What do I do with it?" And I said, just say to the audience, "Here's a random thought." He did the joke, and it was very funny. And that's all you got to do. "Oh, I was thinking."
Okay.
Move on, period. So all those things are good. Trust yourself because you got to remember, it's your sense of humor. That's my problem with a lot of teachers is that they're teaching their opinion of what's funny rather than techniques and teaching you how to do it for yourself. And watch out for those kind of teachers because you'll end up with their sense of humor and their sense of timing and their style. And then you spend all that time not looking for your own. And I'm always looking for everybody's individual story. How do you help you articulate your sense of humor with the techniques that we teach?
Which is really awesome because we teach techniques and not our sense of humor. So we can help you articulate yours. I love it. Greg, you teach all kind of good stuff like forms of thinking, thinking in reversal, understatement, opposites and exaggeration. People don't teach that, but he does. So we don't have to tell you what we really think of you. We can just take your material and shape it up for you. We got Quentin Thomas coming up. Here's his question. Hello, Greg. I'm a beginner and this event was my first open mic. My question is, how do you deal with hecklers if you're a nervous beginner?
First of all, congratulations. You're here. Do you follow? Most people will sign up for this and not even show up. So you showed up, you did it. This is terrifying, especially as a beginner. Since it's hard, this is not easy. A lot of people want to be the funny person. Few people show up. You showed up, you did this. So right on, keep doing that. I remember before every open mic, I used to sit there, and maybe you did this too, just before I went on stage, and I would go, why am I doing this to myself? Right? Because you're going through so many things physically. And so you're here. Okay. So just keep doing that. Show up, go to all the shows, just keep doing it. Okay. Because there's a lot to learn and you can't learn it unless you get up in front of people, period. Okay. We try to make it as fun as possible and some places aren't as much fun. So hecklers, first of all, the hardest lesson I had to learn about hecklers is most of them think they're helping your show.
Ooh. Yep.
That is huge. Took me years because I was like, "Hey, you're messing with me." And you jump right on them. If you understand that most of them are commenting, going, "Oh, I'm going to help." Now, they don't realize things about the rhythm and timing in a show and a whole routine and all this kind of stuff. They don't get that. They couldn't possibly do. They don't understand that they're interrupting a show, etc. So, first of all, sometimes it just helps to kind of go, I know you're trying to help and stuff, but please don't do that.
All right, good.
because they think they're helping, and you go, oh, you're really not. You're really not helping me, and they'll go, oh, I'm sorry, and situation solved.
All right, Greg. So next question comes from from Mark. He's a comedian and he's getting comfortable performing, but he wants to know, like, how do you get started going on the road and keep your nerve up, keep your nerve to go on the road and actually become a road comic consistently? What do you have
Okay,
to say about this?
so actually, I have a book out about that. It's called The 10 Steps to Being a Working Comedian. You can find it on Amazon, and Gayla's got, anyway, it's right back there. There's a series of steps. Some of them, a lot of them you should be doing right now, which is all the social media stuff. You cannot get managers, agents, people who help you get on the road, et cetera, without a really strong an internet presence. You got to have a website. You've got, you got to have your YouTube channel with a lot of clips. Because these people are going to want to know, and they're going to want to know that you're going to help bring people to that club, even if it's a small club or even rooms, et cetera, in your local area. Part of your job is to promote the shows that you're in. Now, to get out on the road, the first step, and this is the first step in the book, and the first step is you've got to get 30 minutes worth of material. Not just material, worked out material you've gone over and over and over a bunch, and you know that material really well. 30 minutes. Why 30 minutes? Because an opener usually do 15 minutes or so, but since the club owner doesn't know you, he's going to want to see 30, so he or she can clip out the things that they know are not going to work for their audience. One things that club owners know is what works for their audience and what doesn't. Okay, so they're going to want to give you a chance. They're going to want you to have 30 minutes so they have some control over the short show that you're doing. That's the first step. Then you got to get a 30-minute video. Then you got to set up an office, all those things. Basically, you're self-employed and you have to set it up and start working it as a business where you sit down every day. And then we have some of them, but you can find a lot of them online as well. The local clubs, some of the other clubs. And now here's the big piece. Find yourself a mentor.
Awesome.
Somebody who's a couple of levels above you. Go to their shows over and over and over again and see if you can get them to like you and ask to be their mentor. Then they may ask you to do a guest spot for them. Ooh, now you're in. Now, if all that things happens, when you go there that night, buy their dinner, buy their gas, go in the car with them, entertain them, do all those things, etc. Get a mentor, because that mentor is going to introduce you to the people who are giving him or her gigs. And now they're going to see you work. And if you're good, they're going to go, oh, this is the place where you can start to work in. Now you have the contacts to come back to them, 30 minutes of a video, et cetera, and meet their criteria to be an opener or maybe even a feature. I don't know exactly how much material you have, but it's through that mentor that you'll probably get your work with the recommendations of that. And so cultivate that relationship now.
There's a really interesting question from Andreas. Andreas has this question, which I'm curious about. I've heard the same thing where, regarding posting your set online, regarding posting your last material, your set, because we have to be visible in social media. The question is, Greg, will people come and see your show if they can watch you online with the set that you posted? Or how should you post? Shorter sets or your latest material? What is the fine line? How do you find balance on what to post to stay relevant, but yet what not to give away so they'll come live to your show?
Amazing question about how to post. First, start posting shorter stuff. Just get used to it, because there's so much you have to learn about. The different platforms have different aspect ratios. Some are square, or some are tall, vertical, some are horizontal. and you've got to be able to, and now AI is going to help you with that. I've been learning some AI things, you know, like Optus Cut and a few other things that can really help with those things, and then they'll help you post them as well. That's part of it. First, just start putting up short clips. Also, start putting up longer clips on YouTube, and don't make them public. Those are for, like I was saying before, if somebody says, oh, I want to give you a job, you then can go send them, get their email, send them a link, and then they can see your work on YouTube because you've posted it there. So it's not always for the public. The longer sets, because you don't want to put the whole thing out there. You want to put bits and pieces, because no one person usually is going to, if you cut up a 10-minute piece, right, and you cut it up into, I don't know, 35 different, or, you know, 25 different pieces, and put it out there in bits and pieces, who's going to see all that? They're going to go a joke here and there. Okay. Now, the other side to that is that at some point, you're going to have to start learning how to write a lot of material. Now, that's part of what we help people with in our advanced classes, is generating material fairly quickly, because we work with the whole community. It's, the whole class helps you generate your material, because you, Louis C.K. said they'll come and see you and love you and come a second time, but then if it's the same material, they won't come a third time. That's when he started generating a new hour every year. And I knew Gallagher. I taught and worked with Gallagher a bunch. He used to write an hour and a half every year. Chris Rock writes about another hour every year. That's why they're famous, is because they've learned a system with their own system, not mine, of how to generate a lot of material, okay? And get in a writing group to help you develop material. So there's, at some point, as you start to put longer pieces up, those won't be the pieces you're performing anymore. You'll have moved past that. Now you're working on this material, so you can post that old material. And then that's just an ongoing process for the rest of your career.
Our next question, we have Andy. Andy has English as a second language, and he has read your book. He has your book, but he's not.
You're the one that did that. I was wondering who read my book.
He's not clear on how you explain connectors. How does he find connectors in his material?
Wow. Okay. So that is probably the premium question anybody can ask, from my point of view. Okay, for those that don't know, remember the 5 mechanisms that I said were between setup and punch? Okay. At the center of all jokes is what I call a connector. It's one thing with 2 interpretations or meanings, okay? So that is at the center of all jokes that have ever been written or ever will be written. It's not just me. I recognize that, but I also took my work to the International Society of Humor Studies, which is 5,000 PhDs all over the world. And I show up, and they were very kind. They say, you haven't added anything new to humor theory because you've described a joke perfectly as well. We've already got, but they had a different model. Problem with their models is they can't teach people to write jokes from them. So the idea is you've always got to find that, and it takes a lot of imagination. Your mind has to start sorting through a whole bunch of other things to find that thing that goes in between the jokes. I had a guy one time, just to give you some examples, he lost his glass business, big glass business with corporations for big buildings. And he was coming in doing material about Chapter 11, going bankrupt. And he'd go, Chapter 11. It's a setup with Chapter 11. Finally, I said, okay, Chapter 11 is the negative part. Jokes go in 2 ways: positive, good to bad, bad to worse. So you're putting the bad thing at the top. Go back, look at it, and start writing another joke about something that's about good in some way, which is what the joke prospector does. Makes you look at the setups. Oh, so I have some opposites going on. He came back the next week with the joke, I'm entering a whole new chapter of my life. Chapter 11. Boom, it hits. I had a guy recently in the class wanted to talk about in school. He just left. He's a young guy, and he's got going, hey, yeah, all the girls now that after a couple of years, and I run into them after high school, and they're all fat. They're all gaining weight. I'm freaked out about it. Well, that was his thought. Okay. And so you got to find that connector. What's the connector? So again, you got to go through these thoughts. You got to think about the whole world of it. It's not an easy thing to do, but he came back the next week and brought up the same idea and said, hey, I saw these girls and they seem to have gone from prom queen to Dairy Queen. Boom. He found his connector. Now, connectors are not always words. Now we get into some deeper things that you have to spend some time studying with me for a while to understand, but connectors are really about who connectors, who, what, when, where, why, how, and which. Those are the things. Who do we look at in two different ways? A location that we look at two different ways. A location, the Anthony Jesselnick joke, who's one of my students. That's why his jokes are so good. The joke about my neighbors hate my brother. The other day, I caught him masturbating, and I opened the door, and he was masturbating, and he said, "Shut the door." And Anthony goes, and I said, "Get inside." Okay, so that joke, the connector is a location. That's the connector. Where was he at when he was masturbating? We thought he was in his bedroom. He opened the door, caught him masturbating. Oh, it's his bedroom. That's the location. No, he was opening up the front door, saw him out on the lawn. That's why the neighbors hate him. It was a location. So that's the hard thing with all comedians are sitting around finding that connection between them. Now that you know this, watch Bill Maher, watch The Daily Show.
Right.
You're going to start seeing how these jokes have found this connection between in politics between this and that. Okay, and how do you do it? Practice. You just practice for years and years and years, and then follow my guidelines for learning how to write short setups and short punchlines, so the joke is nice and clean and crisp.
I love this. Good answer. We got Laugh-A-Pelagic on here, and he's amazing. He actually says a question here: how much does your connections and with others matter when it comes to breaking out and getting big? Because he knows a lot of comedians, he's met a lot of people. They all have experience and talent, but how much does that really matter when you're trying to break through and break out and stand up for your career?
Well, it can have an effect, like I was saying earlier. Where it has an effect is that if you're good enough, okay, they see you do your show and you're original enough, you're not your usual comedian, you're brought on stage, and I've known I can't think of his Chris, whatever, he was in a wheelchair and had cerebral palsy. I know Josh Blue, people who have a handicap of some kind. Okay, so audience loves you. They're pulling for you. So if you're really funny and those jokes are really working, but they've got to like you so much that they're willing to put their reputation on the line by recommending you. But that's what's going to do it. Does that have a huge effect? Yes, it can. Yeah, because work comes at first by you just hustling, and then as time goes on, you get to know everybody. Some people will say, "Hey, I know, I'll give you some work here." Others you have to go to and say, "Hey, are you willing to recommend me?" And you've got to be willing for them to go, No, you're not good enough for me to recommend. You've got to have that strong ego, and then good enough. Get so good, like Steve Martin said, be so good they can't ignore you.
Our next question comes from Eugene Lewis. Very simple question, and it's kind of an interesting question. Greg Dean, is it best to do crowd work to relax on stage?
Wow, to relax on stage? That's really interesting way to put that, because stand-up comedy is considered by far the scariest live art form on the planet. And within stand-up comedy, crowd work is by far the scariest thing you can do there. So crowd work is the scariest of the scary. And you're going, hey, can I do that to relax? Most comedians, a lot of comedians are too terrified of an audience. They want to control. They just want, I'm just going to stick with my set. I don't want anything, because you're not in control, as you know, if you're doing it. I think it's one of the top 4 most important skills you should learn, especially in the day of so much media. Okay. You burn material really quickly by putting it, as we were earlier talking about how much material you have to develop. Well, crowd work is free material. You get up and cover time and you haven't burnt any of your material. So learning how to do that is a very important skill today. And with Matt Rife, especially making it real popular, there's a bunch of others. I think Andrew Schultz, and can't think of the other lady right now. I've seen a bunch of her clips. People love it because the laugh is coming from an act of creativity, not a presenting of material you've already worked on, and they do know the difference to some degree. Some do. So if you're funny, that's right there in that moment. You've created something, and usually that's why improv is in general is we're witnessing the act of creativity right then, right there. It's immediate. It's happening. So. Yet on the other side of that, I can see by your comfort of how you performed earlier that you're good on stage. A lot of people aren't. It takes them a long time to get comfortable. And there is a great deal of technique. I know, because I have a Thursday afternoon class where I teach crowd work. And there's how to ask the questions, a certain kind of questions. It's how do you do? I break it down to how do you ask the questions, how do you deal with the answers, and then how do you make remarks?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of techniques in each one of those levels that I've modeled out to teach. And so we work on those. And I think actually learning crowd work on Zoom with me is a lot better. A lot of people, I don't want to learn that. I got to realize, I think it's a lot better on Zoom, and so do my students, because there's not that pressure of you got to be funny. You can work on the technique. I can say, hey, try that again. Go after that. Go after that technique. Misunderstand what that person just said to you. Okay. That you now misunderstand the next thing, misunderstand the next. I'll keep pushing them. Pretty soon we're all just laughing because it just got out of control. The audience member, I call participant, can't work their way out of it because everything else they say after that is misunderstood as well. And it just gets funnier and funnier and funnier and funnier. But that is understanding and working on that technique. And there is a lot of technique in crowd work, much more than I ever thought until I started teaching it and modeling it out. It was massive. So, and again, there's a lot of safety in doing crowd work on Zoom within a classroom.
Absolutely. I don't know if they have to take your class in order to get into your crowd work class, because I know you're talking technique, but
no, that one's open to anybody.
Okay, cool. That's on Thursdays. What time is that class?
Noon Pacific time.
Noon Pacific to like 3 or to 1 or something.
Yeah, it's a couple hours usually. It matters how.
All right, Greg, we have another question coming up. This guy, his name is Jake, and he has a great question. He says, I'm clean and I'm medium energy. You got any advice on how to follow a comic who's high energy and filthy on a showcase?
Yes. Yeah, I do have some things. First of all, let me encourage you, stay clean. You work more. You can take. It's easy to take a clean show and dirty it up if you need to do that for certain kinds of rooms. Easy to add cuss words to a clean joke. Okay. Gayla works clean. I can't tell you how many times she's gotten in situations, people, but the dirty material wasn't appropriate. So the audience was a little straighter. So you can always work, okay, with clean material. So first of all, do that. Yeah, there's a lot of alternatives, people to that and stuff that talk about it, but that's after they're famous. Okay. When they first started, a lot of them were cleaner just to get the work and stuff. So the other thing is call it. Gayla was talking about the principle earlier that I have, which is if it's running through your head, let it come out of your mouth. I always say, don't even let it run. It should just come out of your mouth. I don't want any editor whatsoever when you're on stage. In real life, you have to have one, but on stage, you should, walk out on stage and go, how the hell do you follow a guy with that much energy and that nasty of a mouth? Wow, I got clean jokes, God, I gotta follow Mr. Motherfucker here.
My mother.
Great. Okay, let me talk about being a high school coach. Okay, good. That's fun. That's the first thing I think you've got to do.
Right.
Is do that. You've got to call it and say to everybody, hey, this is what's going on. I'm now going to give you clean material. Now you can shift the gears of the audience's rhythm and stuff by doing that. That's really, in my personal opinion, in a real show, that's the job of the MC. The MC should have recognized that's a situation, adjust the audience, get them used to a clean sense of humor, hand them over to you. That's what an MC should be doing. Okay. Most MCs are absolutely horrible. Right? They're just there to get their laughs and then go, oh, here's so-and-so.
Right.
But the job of an MC is to be a frame, not the picture. Right. So you've now got to do that for yourself. So call it. Gayla one time was doing, she was doing Rooster T. Feathers in the San Jose area. And she was featuring. And she ad-libbed. She did one piece about about Jehovah's Witnesses, and then she did another piece where she wore these Bubba teeth that they were really they were for rape prevention. Right. Very funny piece. And somebody in the front row said, "Well, you should have used those on the Jehovah's Witnesses." So she did. That's what I'm talking about, is the flexibility of a show. She went back and did the whole Jehovah's Witness routine with the Bubba teeth.
Right.
The audience was screaming and crying. They were just pounding the tables because they're very flattered when they know they've had an impact on how you're doing the show. Yep. And she go, oh, you want that? Sure, I'll do that for you. And she did it. And the audience just went nuts. I'm standing next to the headliner, and he's standing there and he's watching this. I mean, scream after scream after scream, right? And he looks at me and he goes, how the hell am I going to follow that?
Right.
I won't say his name, he's a fairly well-known comedian, right? And he was like, damn, right? So, Gayla comes off. The MC's pretty good, does a little adjusting to the audience and stuff. He walks up, they introduce him, walk up. What did he do? He goes, how the hell am I supposed to follow that?
Right.
She just killed. You guys are screaming at her. And then he started doing a record. Oh, you do with these Bubba teeth. You're making fun of Gayla and going through part of the same routine. And, and she missed this joke. And now everybody's loving him now.
Right.
Yeah.
And he now taking the energy that Gayla has built and building and working on it, rather than sticking with your normal show and trying to walk out and go, hey, everybody, how y'all doing this evening? I hate bumper stickers.
Right.
Right.
Because I'm always teaching people the most important thing about stand-up comedy is a relationship with the audience. And that relationship is the show. It's not your material. It's that relationship, and Gayla knows that. That's why she does so well in all of her show, because she goes out, reads the audience, and she adjusts to find the maximum amount of laughs she can get out of that particular audience that's in front of you.
Right.
So she went back, did that whole piece, and killed. And with all that said, I have no idea what the original question was.
Never mind. Hey, I love it, Greg, that you talked about it that way. One of the main things about that he teaches in terms of a principle of stand-up comedy is deregulation. We have a tendency as performers to have a set list. All right, we have a set list, and we're going to do this, 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 and we're going to do this. The audience may not want half of that. As you're performing, sometimes they're not connecting to the bits and this bit and stuff. And deregulation is important when it comes to uh, recognizing what is the most important thing about stand-up, relationship with the audience. If they don't want it, stop doing it. You know, adjust your show, deregulate, go with what they want. You know, so when I did that thing at the comedy club, Rooster T. Feathers, and they wanted that, I had to let go of my closing bits. I said, well, that's what they want. I got, 15 minutes left, or whatever I had, or 10 minutes left. And I just did that and closed it out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I have other material that's not my agenda. It's their agenda. I love what Greg says about the audience is responsible for your career.
Right.
You think it's you, it ain't you, it's the audience. If they're not laughing and jiving and like synchronize with you, or then you're not going anywhere. They have to laugh, they have to like you, and they have to request you and follow you so that you can get booked. We had a guy, really great Zoom user. Where you at? You got there. He's a guy in the car with the same expression for the last three hours. He's saying, so Greg, you work with Anthony Jesselnick. That's clear. That's great. But how did you help him? How did you help him improve? What was it like for you to work with Anthony and then to find out that he's out there doing it and he's a celebrity now? What's that like?
You have to remember that when I first worked with Anthony, he was you.
He was,
He was all of you.
yeah.
He was just some badly employed guy, who worked in a Barnes and Noble and looked and started reading my book and was interested in stand up. And he was you. Understand, he's now Anthony Jesselnick, because you see, when he first started, he was just a guy interested in doing some stand up. And he read my book. He liked it. He took the class. Okay. And I taught him storytelling too, which I've talked with him about that. He said, no, once I found one-liners, I decided not to do storytelling anymore, because his showcase with me was a story that he did. Okay. Et cetera. And as time went on, now he's getting a little bit more back into kind of storytelling. I talked to him about that as well at the Mitzi Shore from the Comedy Store, her memorial. I went there for that, and we chatted for a while. And very nice guy. I like him a lot. He's very personable when you meet him in person and stuff. And so, what did I do for him? I taught him joke structure. Just look at his jokes. I have a hard time thinking of much I can take out of his jokes or how I change his jokes, because they're so tight. But he works hard on them. Don't think that this is something where, he wakes up in the morning and there's a joke, and he works on them and works on them, and he performs them and rewrites them and works on them and rewrites them and rewrites them and so on, over and over and over and over. And every joke is crafted, is constructed, and the performance of them as well. Okay. He uses some of the stuff I taught him about storytelling, his face this way when he does his brother, et cetera. It's like, shut the door, get inside. I mean, he uses, he also, anyway, there's a lot of other things that I taught him that he uses as well. Also that, in fact, he works in picture, even though he writes his jokes, I know he's working in picture, sounds, and feelings. He's not memorized the works, so they're memorized the words so that they're in self-talk. That's a whole nother realm of stuff that we cover in the level 1 beginner class, is just understanding a certain kind of memorization of material gets in the way. And he got that because I watch his body move. And I opened up the door and I see my brother, and he said, do you follow? He's seeing the picture, and then that's prompting him to say the words he needs to say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He's not memorizing the words so that the only way to get them out is to look down and talk to yourself. If you're talking your jokes to yourself, that's not normal. The way you've been funny your whole life is a real event happened to you, and you remember it in picture, sounds, and feelings, because that's how the human mind works. You see those pictures again, and you use body language, vocal tone, and words to tell the story, and then you find the jokes along the way and keep repeating the story to your friends and stuff, like if you broke your arm or, had a bad ski trip or something like that. That's the way you've been funny your whole life. You haven't written a script and sit around and memorize the words exactly so I can remember what to say. That's not the way you've been funny your whole life. So we've got a conundrum that the rehearsal process has to solve.
Yeah.
which is how do you get those words and how do you get it into picture, sounds, and feelings? That's my rehearsal process, is that process. And the students of mine who embrace it, they just, they like take over all of, I mean, Southern California, they're all over the place and they perform all the time.
Yeah.
So what did I give Anthony? I gave Anthony Jesselnick, which is a joke structure, a little bit of the stuff for storytelling, and the way of going about memorizing it so that you're dealing with normal memory of picture, sounds, and feelings rather than internal dialogue, memorized words. And it's had a huge effect on his career, along with his massive talent.
All right. Very good. Greg's got a host of celebrities he's worked with. We talked about Jesselnick a couple times. He's taught Sherry Shepherd, he's taught Lonnie Love, Retha Jones. If you look on the website, stand-upcomedy.com, you can see a list of celebrities he worked with. Even Gayla Johnson.
Yeah, recently I went and saw Ford versus Ferrari, and the third lead was a longtime student. It's weird sitting there, with your friends going, "Oh, yeah, it's my student." They're like, "What?" Watching a big feature film with Matt Damon and this guy's the third lead in it. So I went home, called him up. He always calls me back or answers the phone right away. And he told me stories about shooting the whole thing, and they had more scenes and that they got cut out and stuff. But it's real. A guy named Sean Kerrigan.
Julian has a good question. He's a student of Greg's. He says, Greg, can you, where is it? He's been in the business for 3 years. He's run rooms. He's now putting together a festival. It's amazing. His question is, should he focus on performing as long as possible, or should he be trying to be as funny as he can? Or is there the difference? And how does
Well,
that?
it comes down to your outcome. I'm assuming that you're doing all of these festivals and rooms and stuff, so you get more time, more
Yeah.
stage time. Good. Now, you got to watch out because that can take over, and then all of a sudden you're a producer, you're not a comedian anymore because you were trying to balance that. Make sure that you get your time in there. And so, first of all, you can never have too much material. And you can never perform too much unless you physically get tired and get burnt out and stuff. But as far as experience, just if you're you get so good. And that's the thing is that Gayla's flexibility in front of an audience is that she's got so much material, several hours of material to back her up. So if this bit's not working, she'll shift and go to another bit. So I'm not exactly sure. I've seen your work. I like your work, Julian. And so you're doing all the right things. You're in the right place. Now it's a matter of just working and keep developing material so that you can return to the same places year after year with a new show like Louis C.K. did and the other people who have had their breakthrough because they could go do the same crowds year after year and build a following because they've always got a new show. So my suggestion, material and perform and do the other things I have in my in the 10 steps to being a working comedian. Collect emails. Develop your own database of people, of fans, wherever you go. It just takes a few minutes after every show. Collect 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. Anybody that says they want to see your show, go and put it in. And then when you're performing, you send out an email. Email's free to all these people that said they want to see you. So yeah, promote yourself and keep performing and keep writing material and experiment. Push yourself beyond what you think you can do, etc. Do some skills that you're not used to doing. If you're not doing storytelling, try some storytelling and some scene work and try some crowd work, etc. Because it's all about just improving your skill set so that you can handle any situation. Because the big money, you want to know where it is? It's in corporations. That's where the big money is. And you got to work clean and you got to have a lot of material and you have to have a lot of skills.
Absolutely. I learned from some comedians that I know and I hang out with. A good way to push yourself is to, after you've been performing for a year, 2 years, 3 years, is to take that material and tape it as your comedy special. self-promote your comedy special. So the material you've been doing all the time that you get booked for and everything, you could keep doing that. And you should, but also you can do it in such a way where you take the best of and you put it on a tape or record it, and that is your comedy special. So now they have to buy that. You've heard of the after merchandise at a show, that they buy merchandise from you and then they share that merchandise and you become more popular through word of mouth. But because you're now selling it as your comedy special, now you have to have a whole new show. And it kind of pushes you forward to not repeat things. But
Yep.
great question. Julian, I think you have enough for a special. We got Andreas and David, maybe a couple other people. David wants to know, gosh, what if you're in a horrible mood? Wait, how does he put it? What if you need to perform a set, but you're in a horrible mood? Because he has left many open mics just because he just felt feeling down that day. How do you perform when you really ain't feeling it?
Couple things in that, and that's a really important question to ask. I work with people a lot on their sense on the humor, on the jokes and stuff, but I also help people with their state, the state of performing, and that's one of them. What state are you in? Oh, you're in a bad mood. What if you're? Let me just ask you a question. If I was paying you $1 million and you were in a bad mood, could you get around it?
Yes.
Then you can get around it anytime. It's just not worth it to you. Now, that's your integrity is now on the line. Oh, I'm going to do a good show anyway. And I say partly use it. Get up and say, hey, I'm in a really bad mood.
Right.
And do your show that way.
Yeah.
I'm in a bad mood. Don't heckle me. I'm in a bad mood.
That's right.
So call it. Be in a bad mood. It's okay. You're a human being and you're going to have bad shows, and maybe that bad mood will make a bad show, but rack it up. It's just one of the many things that happens. I've had shows where I'm hungover. I could hardly see the audience, but you do the show so many times, you can get into that state of performing, right? And the headache and everything else goes away. You get in that zone, you get in there and you're making everybody laugh, right? Thank you. Good night. You go off stage. But I still made it through the show, right? I mean, so it's that discipline of I'm going to have a good show. I'm going to make this work no matter what. You see, and it's your integrity. I'm going to make it's a choice you're making about your work ethic,
Right.
not about whether the audience likes it or doesn't like it, or whether they found it funny or not funny. Oh no, I'm going to prepare myself in bad shows so that I know how to behave during good shows. I'm practicing these good habits, these best practices during bad shows. So I know how to use them during great shows.
Right.
Awesome.
Cool.
That is amazing. I mean, actually, also when you're out there performing and you don't feel like it, take a step toward a different emotional association with your show. You have it already in your head. I got to perform this way. I'm this way. But if you aren't feeling it, you're going to perform a little bit different. You're going to find new jokes. You're going to find something else about yourself. Here's a question for you. I got somebody wrote in this question. Why, when it comes to comedy teachers, you are a comedy teacher, but you're also a comedian. And when did you stop performing comedy? And when did you decide to become a teacher?
I was a full-time comedian back in the 70s, certainly the 80s. And I started teaching in 1982 because I'd go to the clubs and help other comedians with their shows. And they kept saying, "Oh, you should teach it." No, I don't want to be a teacher. I'm a comedian. What are you talking about? I'm working. I'm making a lot of money. I have my own apartment. I moved to LA with $700 a box of books on comedy and a Volkswagen Bug. I got a nice apartment. I got a nice car. I'm making money as a comedian. And I started doing it kind of as a hoot, starting along the way. So, then there was a bunch of things that happened. Jobs ended, some things, broke up with a girl, blah, 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 blah. I went through some changes and stopped performing as much. Then just how does this come about? Then I found neurolinguistic programming, NLP, which is the stuff that Tony Robbins teaches. If you guys don't, I was his personal assistant for a while. And then he was so busy, he didn't have time to teach as much as I wanted. So I found the man who trained him and worked with him for 4.5 years on neurolinguistic programming, which was first started out as mapping the subjective experience, which they did a really good job of understanding how we put pictures around our head. That's where the picture, sounds, and feelings stuff comes from, is our mind as a sensory apparatus. So I got really good with that. Part of that was the modeling process. How do you go into an area where there are no fundamentals and start identifying those? And I was already doing it with comedy anyway, but John Grinder, who I was working with, was showing me a better way to do it, being more exacting, having a sensory explanation for everything. So we assured that I would get past the content and get down to the process. A lot to talk about there, but that's what modeling is. So it's like it opened up a door and I started seeing what nobody else was seeing. I was like, oh, look at this joke structure. The audience is making a bunch of assumptions, and then that leads to an expectation. Before it was just expectation. But there's a lot of steps and mental processes before you get to expectation. You got to hear it. You got to build a story. You got to make a bunch of assumptions. Then you've got to accept it as true. Then you've got to once you think it's true, then you expect it to continue along that line of thought. Now you have expectations. Oh, wait a minute. That's a lot of mental processing going on, which most people aren't aware of, and that helped me develop this joke. Those 5 mechanisms, and there's other things about that, but those 5 mechanisms, I found that once I understand the process of how a joke worked, I could teach people to write jokes. You see, so if somebody goes, "Oh, I was cheating in college." Oh, cheating. There's your connector. One thing with 2 meanings. Who else could you be cheating with? Instead of cheating with the tests. Oh, I was cheating by screwing the principal's wife. Right? Oh, I can write a joke that way. Easy. What are people are assuming? And then jump to that reinterpretation. That's what the joke writing system I have out there, the joke prospector, that's how it teaches it. But there are other ways to do it as well. So I just got excited. You can see right now, I got excited about when I'm doing something that nobody's doing.
Yeah.
When I first started teaching stand-up, all there was set up and punch. And that was pretty much it. There wasn't any joke. Oh, there was the 2-list joke writing system. You guys know that, which is you pick a subject like hospitals and give it a trait like torture. You make association lists for 2 of them. And then the 3rd step is write jokes. If you know how to write jokes, that system works great because you're really looking for connectors between those 2 lists. Now I know that, but so I used to teach it, and then half the students would write jokes and the other half would go, I have no idea what you want me to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what a joke is. And I went, you don't know what a joke is? And I don't know what a joke is. That's when I started going, so what's a joke? And that took 17 years to be able to explain very clearly and describe any joke. There's some extra stuff beyond that. But when we go into storytelling, I had to innovate narrator, self, and character points of view, because we take on different points of view when we go into scene work. Inside of a scene is different points of view than me outside the scene. And then that affects joke structure too. Oh, who do you give the setup to and who do you give the punch to? And it jumps around. Oh, now I can explain Robin Williams. I can explain Richard Pryor. I can explain anybody, because now I have ways of understanding how joke structure fits into storytelling.
Right.
And there's so many other skills inside of each one of those things. As I actually, to this day, still, I've got more techniques and ideas in my mind than I have time to write about and put into a good, clear form. So That's why it just over time took over, and where the final cut was where I stopped performing altogether. I got cancer in 2004,
Oh,
and
boy.
I was sick until 2007. And
Oh.
when I got well, I don't have any energy to go out and perform at all anymore. And I completely became a teacher at that point. Okay.
Nice.
And I lived my dreams and my wonderful enjoyment of performing through my lovely wife, Gayla, who brought me back to health. And since then, just so you all know, I'm cured of cancer.
Give him a round of applause. That's great, Greg. We're so glad you're cured of cancer. What I love most about him is that his techniques, his fervor, his energy, it comes from really, really demystifying the mind of a comedian and
Right.
understanding the techniques behind it. It doesn't come from his opinion on what's funny. That has nothing to do with it, because he demystifies and can teach you techniques, which is great. I love what you said about
When you teach technique, then the student can apply it to their own sense of humor.
Right. Right.
We
Yes.
get past mine. People ask me, "Is this funny?" I don't answer that question. By the way, I go, I don't know. Do it in front of an audience. Do you think it's funny? Yes, then do it.
Exactly.
But I don't answer that question because
Exactly.
So
I'm wrong.
if you ever take a class and the teacher is telling you what he thinks of what you're saying and what he thinks is funny, you have to question that because it's not about what he thinks. You're not trying to please him, are you?
Well, not only is the teacher passing on his or her own sense of humor, they're also passing on their own limitations as a comedian.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We have a really
And-
crazy question that's left here. One more question because we're going to close this
Okay.
out. 7:19. David has an interesting question. He asked, isn't the constant F-bomb a nervous? Is the constant
Oh, yeah.
a nervous? Here
Fuck
we go.
yes. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with those fucking comedians. What the fuck are they doing? Those stupid fucks are always fucking up. Fuck. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gratuitous.
yeah,
That's the problem, is it comes from insecurity and you're trying to make the humor better. Write better jokes. Is what it comes down to. Craft good jokes so you don't have to I mean, Stanhope is at least making a point when he brings up things, or somebody,
Yep.
Jim Norton. Oh God, I can't get his last name, but some of the, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, they were making a point
Right.
about something, about free speech and so on and so. But to just stand, I had one of my students one time. He holds the record in a 5-minute show. It was
Yeah.
76.
Oh, snap.
You can only do that by every word being that word.
Damn.
Okay. So I'm just saying, he eventually learned how to write really good jokes, and he ended up being very, very funny. And I guess I kept going, come on, trust the joke, write a good joke, write a good joke, write a good joke, write a good joke, a joke. That's why my joke diagram, my understanding those mechanisms, understanding how jokes work, understanding how to find connectors, how to misdirect the audience, how to surprise them, how to keep that joke short. All those things are so important, so that you don't have to cuss. There's a time to do it. You guys may not know that I was the opening act for the male strippers at Chippendales. I really was. It was like old burlesque.
Telling jokes?
Yeah, no, it really was. It was a very hard job that took me 3 months to learn how to play that audience, because it was like 350 women screaming, "Take it off!" Right? And and I used one cuss word in that whole 15-minute show that I did for them as a warm-up act for the and it took me, and it was identifying with them. I said, the joke was, the rest of the time I was clean. I do double entendre innuendo, but I didn't cuss. Did sex jokes, but I didn't cuss. Okay. And the one time I did cuss was, I said, later, ladies, the guys are going to all come in and they're all going to want to hit on you and dance with you and stuff. And, you know, just be very nice, look at them. And I would take so much time because by then I'd have good focus from them. And I'd become the woman. I'd stand there, look the guy up and down a bunch of times and kind of go, fuck no. Place came apart.
Right.
Just that was like near the end of my show. It's the only place I said a dirty word. And then women would come up after the show going, you know, that's exactly what I was thinking. And that's why I did the joke, because I knew that's exactly what they were thinking. And that's why it got such a huge roar. Okay, because they could identify. They were thinking that, and I spoke for them. I'm their ally. That's the way I learned how to play. That audience was, I was their ally. I could identify with what they were going through and so on and so forth. So, I mean, a lot of things, but that was a hard audience. I've never found a harder audience to play. There were so many comedians before me and after me who simply couldn't play the audience. They would work one night and quit. It's impossible to play this crowd. And the owners like, but Greg does this. Greg plays them. He kills. He brings them down. You can't play them. I don't understand. Greg does it. You know, and then he called me up. Greg, you gonna come back? No, you fired me. So now it's $25 more a show.
Is that where you met Galen?
Well, I'm not going to pay that. Click. 2 days later. Greg, I will pay you your $25 more. I can whip that audience into a frenzy in that 12 to 15 minutes. I just got
Nice.
I did it for over 4 years, something like 4 years, from 80 to 84,
Wow.
something like that.
I'm gonna put you back in the gallery. Somebody had a question for. Who had that question? Where he was performing for Chippendales.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that was, there's no harder audience, and an audience where I could have cussed and it would have been okay, but I
Yeah.
chose not to, and to use that one moment to get a scream from that audience. And it worked so beautifully because it was, and if you want to know the truth, how I actually turned that audience around, give me the spotlight again, because I love this story and I
Here we
don't
go.
tell it very often.
Hmm.
Here's how I conquered that audience. I started thinking, okay, what do they want? What do they, so on and so forth. They want to tell me to take off my clothes. Why? Because they want to strip the men. They want to revenge on men the way men have been treating women for centuries. Oh, we're going to strip you and use you as an object. So that was so I'd come out and it was like, take it off. And the other thing was like, you're in the way of seeing the men. So get off stage. Oh, how do I conquer that? That's wrong. So I'd have the MC, you have to listen to this guy, be somewhat quiet so you can hear every lewd, lascivious, and dirty talk he's going to say to you. And they'd go, oh, he's going to talk dirty to us. So now they're at least listening. And then I'd come out and I would say, there's some bad news and some good news. The bad news is I'm not going to take off my clothes. And they would applaud
Uh,
to pull a joke on me, saying, we don't want you to take off your clothes.
right.
Right. And, and then I said, then there's some good news. The good news is I'm here to get you all, talk dirty to you, get you all warmed up and talk dirty and do all these things and get you all moist for the male exotic dancers.
Right.
And they would cheer for that. I just wait for it all to come right back down. And I go, ladies, I'm your foreplay.
Nice. Nice. Right.
If there's one thing that all women want,
It's foreplay.
and I knew that once I got the end of that sequence, I had them for the rest of the show. They
Exactly.
wanted to hear me. They loved me. They were identifying with me. Jokes. And I did a lot of interaction with them. So it wasn't me just presenting material. There was a lot of things, interactions with the audience that a lot of other comedians couldn't do because they weren't street performers like I was. I was used to interacting with the audience. I wasn't afraid of them. I bounce off of them and stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah, once I learned how to play that, for the next 4 years, I was doing 5 to 9 shows a week at $100 a pop.
Nice.
for years. And then time came and the show changed and some other controversial things happened inside Chippendales and stuff. And so it was time for me to move on.
All right, please give Greg Dean a round of
No,
applause for
no.
his Q&A.
Thank
Give
you.
it up, Toyota.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Be
Yeah.
funny, you will.
Yes, I'm one of the Padawans. I'll be the Padawan around here, Greg. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
so much. Thanks so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
Keep
much.
you.
performing. Remember,
Good.
being funny is contagious. Pass it on.